sorcières sortent le soir, les fantômes aussi. Le ciel est tout noir, les nuages sont gris. Est-ce que tu as peur des méchants esprits?
Oh, monsieur, oui, 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 oui. C'est l'Halloween, c'est l'Halloween. Hey! C'est l'Halloween, c'est l'Halloween.
Ooh. Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. It's Halloween, right? So scary things are happening all across the West and the world. Really terrifying things like censorship laws and high capital gains taxes and even higher land transfer taxes for farmers and criminals being let out on bail. Ooh, and other people who are being arrested for their social media posts. So terrifying, right? Terrifying this Halloween. Mike Myers ain't got nothing on all of that terrifying stuff. 5 days away from the US election. So that's interesting. We've still got time for an October surprise, right? Don't be disheartened. It could still happen. Maybe we'll see. Kamala, right? We'll see what happens with her. Trudeau takes aim at crisis pregnancy centers. Yes, those lying crisis pregnancy centers, we'll get them. And they're babies too, I guess. Jagmeet will not support the CPC or the Bloc non-confidence and the Bloc non-confidence vote. So that's interesting. He ignores the Chinese interference and leans into calling Pierre Poilievre King Cut, which is like King Tut, which I thought was hilarious. King Cut. Okay, sure, Jagmeet, if you want to brand him that way. I hope that he comes out with like a staff and stuff. Like, remember Ernie, when Ernie did the King Tut thing? It was ridiculously funny. So like, Poilievre could pull it off and it would be hilarious. He should do it. So Poilievre says that he will release the names of the Chinese traitors. And my gosh, there's a whole lot of things to get to on this Halloween day. So first, I'll just say happy Halloween, right? It is also Diwali, as we have a whole bunch of our politicians who remind us that it's Diwali today. Will they post Halloween well wishes? We'll see. But there are a lot of people celebrating Diwali and Halloween. So there you go. Snoopy is wishing you a happy, here's a great big boo, Snoopy says. So I don't know, whatever. And Putin is weighing in on, not Halloween or anything like that, but I just thought this was interesting. Russian president says, people who destroy whole nations do not have the right to teach us democracy and the values of living freely. I think that's right. Now, the thing that I can't reconcile, because we're going to get into the regular show now, because that was the Halloween version, or that was the Halloween part. Now it was the regular part. What I don't understand is, okay, BRICS, gold standard, Putin, these things seem like, okay, right? Although Putin, the West wants everyone to believe that Putin is the big bad, I feel like they haven't made a good case. It looks like NATO's the bad guy. It looks like NATO's doing biotechnology research in Ukraine. And it looks like Russia is protecting themselves. And, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like Russia's looking at taking Ukraine and then the world, right? It looks like if they want anything, they want to be left alone, I guess. But then you've got BRICS, the broader BRICS, Xi. And if you look at Xi and Putin together, and Xi's got, through China, a lot of influence in Canada, and Canada's living through a nightmare. Like Canada, I think that we're at war. I think that there's, I think that our government has been corrupted. I think that there's a whole lot of foreign interference, and be that Chinese foreign interference or Indian foreign interference or other foreign interference, rhymes with Misrael, right? Like, who knows? I don't know. But it seems like I can't reconcile if BRICS gold standard is a positive or at all, right? If something like a gold standard currency is going to save the world from going through a massive depression, then that's better than suffering through a massive depression and waiting for another currency to appear, although you've also got Bitcoin. So there's a whole bunch of things that I can't understand. I don't have enough information, it seems, but it seems there's a weird juxtaposition between China's the bad guy and China's also on the side of the gold standard currency, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they're a superpower, they're communist, and they're buying up through BRICS and influence that way countries that used to be more aligned with the United States and the West. And so like all of that aligns with China as a-hole, right? China is a-hole, right? So like all of that aligns. I just don't understand the cooperation between Putin and Xi and how it all plays out with regards to, well, I mean, like the Chinese interference that's happening in Canada, the Chinese interference that it appears is happening in the United States, and I'll show you that. And like, I understand that the world superpowers are trying to position themselves to be in the best position to, you know, extend their power and further their interests. I understand that. And sometimes their interests are gold-backed currencies, and sometimes their interests are, you know, voting in Michigan, right? If you're China, sure, right, why not? Or voting in Vancouver, right? If you're China, why not? And so, like, all of those things can all be true at the same time. And maybe I'm looking for, you know, the hero thread where there is none. You know what I mean? Like, maybe everybody's just looking out for their own best interests, and maybe that's just what it is. And Canada should start looking out for its own best interests, right? Maybe that's what I'm missing, because these guys are acting in their best interests mostly, I guess it seems. And well, I don't know that it's working out for them, but our country, Canada, seems to be having some pretty major problems that we didn't used to have before, and we don't seem to know the way out. And those guys seem to be on the upswing on their cultural, whatever, dominance or whatever it is. And there's a lot of other people talking about that, not just me. Anyway, lots to talk about with regards to China and foreign interference as well. Kevin Vung is making it very, very plain. And if politics is a boxing match, then what is happening in these debates are jabs and like big roundhouse punches and things, right? And so Kevin Vung lands a big punch on Glassjaw Trudeau, and Trudeau gets really mad about it. And it seems like over the target, Kevin. So it's very interesting. Here's a minute long Kevin Vung being very pointed with Chinese foreign interference. Here we go.
New Year's Eve, Canadians will be ushering in the Hogue Commission's final report on foreign interference. But meanwhile, media continue to provide insight as to who are the infamous 11 parliamentarians in the pocket of China. Mr. Speaker, does a Prime Minister have trouble sitting at the cabinet table when he must wittingly know that at least one of his ministers is not working in the service of Canada, or is he entirely witless?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that was an absolutely disgraceful display of irreverence and unseriousness in a place that deserves a serious contemplation of issues of national security. But it doesn't surprise me he's choosing to sit with the Conservative Party of Canada, because their leader won't even get the necessary clearance to get the necessary briefing to keep Canadians safe. It's irresponsible.
New Year's Eve,
What? So there's Chinese infiltrators in our government, and Ensicop knows, and Jagmeet Singh knows, and Elizabeth May knows, and Justin Trudeau knows who these Chinese traitors are. Mary Ng is an unwitting, apparently, Chinese traitor, and she's a cabinet minister, right? No problem with that. That name was dropped the other day by Sam Cooper. And so he's saying that Pierre Poilievre is irresponsible for not getting this report, but he won't tell Canadians the name. If there's anything in the report, doesn't he have a responsibility to tell Canadians the name? Here is Amazing Zoltan cut this from the feed. The other one was from Kevin Vung. This is a little bit longer. Ryan Garrettson says, Trudeau's reaction tells you all you need to know. You only get that angry when there's truth to what was said. Respect to Kevin for standing up and saying this in the House of Commons. Keep turning up the heat. Yeah, well, I mean, like, there's Chinese traitors in the House. I don't think anything else matters at this point in time. There's all these articles the Globe and Mail tries to run about, like, run-of-the-mill things like, ooh, who's going to win the next race and who's going to whatever. It's ridiculous. And it all comes back to they're ignoring and pretending that there's no big problem in our government when there's a massive problem, and these people are trying to pass censorship laws. Big problem. It's a big problem, and we should respond as if it's a big problem. Laurie Goldstein is highlighting this. Pierre Poilievre promises to release the names of MPs who participated in foreign interference should his party form the government. His office says Poilievre challenged Trudeau to release the identities of the unnamed parliamentarians. Underneath this tweet, Frederick is responding, and there's a conversation just talking about whether or not the people are, or the Prime Minister has a mechanism by which he can release this information. And of course there is. Frederick says, my understanding is that an order in council is all that is required. And then they get into a conversation. And Frederick says, an order in council can be used to address security issues in Canada. This legal instrument issued by the Governor General on the advice of the Cabinet can be used to implement measures related to national security, emergency preparedness, and other security related matters. So there's absolutely a mechanism by which that this information can be told to Canadians, who obviously would need to know, because we have to operate in this information environment and behave and make a choice based on the information we have. And if we don't have very important information, like who's working with the Chinese in our government, then that's probably bad, right? And they're going to say, "You mean Indian, right?" And then they're going to say Pierre Poilievre's working with Indians in the government, and then they're going to try and hang that around his neck as well. And hey, there may be Indian interference in the Conservative Party leadership race. I'm pretty sure they used Dominion and Deloitte for the Liberal leadership race, and so like all of the leadership races are suspect. All of the MPs and MPPs in Ontario, in my opinion, have a pall of at least suspicion around them, because like we don't know. So it could be anybody. It could be all of them, right? Like at this point in time, Sam Cooper says democracy watchdog to file conflict complaint against the Liberals and Bill Blair on Michael Chan's warrant. Chan fundraised for numerous Liberal leaders, including Justin Trudeau. So yeah, not good. All of this stuff points to impropriety. All of this stuff points to a big problem, and they're doing everything they can to not say anything about it at all, right? Melanie in Saskatchewan says, "I don't care what anyone says. Sam Cooper is a national hero for publicly coming out with MP Kevin Vuong and naming some names of the traitors. The only people you will hear calling him a criminal are Liberals caught red-handed. Thank you, Sam Cooper. You have done a great service for Canadians. Those of us on the side of integrity and democracy salute you." So it's interesting. Mary Ng is trying to denigrate Sam Cooper. She's saying the only people who will publish what he writes is his own website. But like, you can have a website where like the New York Times is just a website. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference? The only people who read the New York Times are idiots who believe the New York Times, right? And so, I mean, realistically, the New York Times has destroyed their credibility, right? So I wouldn't read the New York Times personally, but there are a lot of people who do, right? And so it's interesting to try and discredit somebody like that using that kind of rhetoric when completely ignoring the allegations against you, right? I'm not going to say anything about what I've been accused of. I'm going to do everything to denigrate that person who's accused me. Ha ha ha. That'll get them. And the thing is, people go in line with that. People fall in and pay attention, and then they start going like, "Oh, wow, Sam Cooper." It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So Rebel News. So the other day, I saw it yesterday, and I didn't even tag it. The True North said that Jagmeet Singh was not clear whether he would support the Bloc and the CPC on a confidence motion. He's really, really clear. He called Pierre Poilievre King Cut. Like, it's so funny. I mean, it's funny because it's dumb, because it gives him a branding thing. Like, I hope he comes in with the King Tut music, like when Ernie did it. Hold on a second. I have to show you. Okay. It wasn't Ernie. I mean, it was Ernie. There is an Ernie King Tut. There is one. But I was more thinking of, it's the Boogie Woogie Tut or something like that. But I was more thinking of Steve Martin. I was more thinking of this one.
Did you do the monkey? Now if I know.
So Steve Martin's kind of funny. But he could pull it off. He could do that, right? Anyway, I think that something could be done with that. I think that it's funny enough that something could be done with that if Poilievre was feeling saucy. Here's Jagmeet Singh saying unequivocally that he will not give King Cut the satisfaction of bringing down the government, and completely ignoring anything that has to do with Chinese interference. This doesn't have to do with Chinese interference, he says. All this has to do with Pierre Poilievre's ego. There you go.
Does that mean that you will not work with the Bloc and Conservatives to bring down the government?
We know people are hurting right now. People are struggling right now. They're having a hard time affording their groceries. They're having a hard time affording a place to call home. And seniors are just getting help with their teeth. I'm not going to let Pierre Poilievre, the King Cut himself, and the Bloc decide when to cut these things that people need. I'm not going to let them cut the things that people need. So no, I'm not going to play their games.
To end the privilege debate.
He's leaving? They end the conference. That's it. Was that unequivocal? That was unequivocal. No, I'm not giving them the satisfaction. So like, are you kidding me? Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. Really, really. And this is not, I can't believe that the NDP caucus is going to sit for this, right? Like, I would not stand for this. I'd leave. I'd be like, I'm out. See you later. You people are traitors to Canada. But I mean, they're just traitors to Canada. Are they all traitors to Canada? It seems like it at this point in time. Christy says, I'm honestly just so sick of the Canadian government. I don't care about releasing the names. I don't care about the lies. I don't care about their stupid lying campaign promises. I just want them all arrested for treason and crimes against humanity at this point. Yep. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. This woman is my spirit animal for right now. It does not seem like we're going to get that, but it seems like these people are scrambling, and we can reasonably assume from leaks and all of the rest of it that there's fire where all this smoke is happening. So let's deal with the fire, right? But it's very unfortunate because they're all going to say, they're all going to claim innocence. Oh, not me. I didn't know anything about it. Oh, China? I don't, doesn't ring a bell. I've never heard of it. Taiwan? Rob Shaw says the BC NDP are still phoning around trying to lure conservative BC MLAs to quit and become the speaker, giving David Eby a more functional majority. Here's 3 noteworthy no's. Peter Milobar, he says, I will not be seeking to be the speaker in the upcoming parliament. Trev Hall says, no effing way. And Eleron Struko says, while being the speaker is an honorable role, the ability to debate legislation or deliver a blistering question or two on behalf of British Columbians is a privilege. I wouldn't trade for anything. Man, I would have a really hard time following Rustad not fighting the results of this election, like accepting the results of this election without any kind of scrutiny over Dave Eby, his ties to China, the impropriety in the vote, the phone-in voting, all of the BS that we've talked about. I wouldn't be like, okay, now I'm going to go and become the opposition. Bullshit. I wouldn't be quiet about it either, and I wouldn't accept the caucus telling me to be quiet about it. So I'd probably leave. I don't play well with others, I guess. Oh well. The Remand is talking about this, and Rob Logan, says it's interesting how in the real world, elections BC vote count is not adding up. The Remanded is highlighting this. Late night snippet, he says, looks like, and this is one of the reasons why I would not stand for Rustad saying, no, we lost. Don't worry, everybody. We're going to be the opposition. It's going to be super good. For 4 years? Give me a break. For 4 years? Loser. And he should fight. He should fight. What are you doing, dude? If you don't fight now, what was the point of running the election? I'm just disgusted. Okay, late night snippet, he says, the Remand says. Looks like the poll with 12 hours is a definite yes for a video. I'll leave you with this and see if I can get out one today. So he's trying to put one out for yesterday. The JDFM riding had 20 to 23 votes between the NDP and Conservative. Hammer and scorecard keep the race tight. They flip 3% of the votes from the target candidate to the preferred candidate, right? So if you vote Rustad, it flips to Eby, right? Or if you vote Conservative, it flips to NDP. So it keeps it close, 20 to 23, to trigger a recount. Once the recount happens and the mail-in ballots happen, we know how many votes we need to beat, and we get more. That's all that's happened. They've reconciled. 23,715 plus 185 is 23,900. So why does the website results say 23,997? Or double check. 23,218 plus 681 mail-in ballots, telephone ballots, special ballots, and mobile ballots is 23,899. So why does the website results say 23,997? What is the baseline? The Remand. When I say baseline, I mean the irrefutable number we use before going into account. From the last update of the 25th before the first update of the 26th, the JDFM never saw a new vote going into final count, which means we can use either 23,218, number without any final count numbers, or 23,715, number before adding spec or mobile count column. We have a margin of 1 vote to confirm JDFM had 97 to 98 too many votes. Someone might want to call HR. Good night. So that's a follow. So what he says. So yeah, I started following them, I believe. Yep. So interesting stuff. Who knows? Take it all with a grain of salt. But it seems there's some impropriety in the BC election, and it seems there's evidence to back it up too. So we'll see how that all plays out. I don't know if we're going to see any. I don't know if we're going to get any justice. It doesn't seem likely at this point in time. It doesn't seem likely, although there is a little bit of hope, a sliver of hope in the 2024 presidential election. We'll talk about this. John says this is nuts. A Chinese student, meaningful look at the camera, who isn't a U.S. citizen, was caught illegally voting in Michigan. Is he Canadian? Did he cross over the border to vote in Michigan? But his vote will count because there's no mechanism for officials to retrieve ballots after they've been illegally cast. Shucks darn, right? That's happening in Canada. That's how Han Dong got his seat. Chinese students, the Detroit News is publishing this, the Chinese students to face criminal charges for voting in Michigan. Ballot will apparently count. It's a Harris Waltz vote. It counts. A University of Michigan student who is from China and not a U.S. citizen allegedly voted early Sunday in Ann Arbor and is being charged with 2 crimes 6 days before a pivotal presidential election. The student's ballot is expected to count in the upcoming election, although it was illegally cast because there's no way for election officials to retrieve it once it's been put through a tabulator. And the setup is meant to prevent ballots from being tracked back to an individual voter. Shucks darn, right? I mean, it's not like they've set it up that way from the beginning. Yes, it is. Ooh. Wow, DC Drano says he's responding to Laura Trump. Laura Trump says, our election integrity team received reports of thousands of duplicate ballots in Michigan. We immediately investigated and have confirmed that it was a glitch in the system. A glitch and all sorts of ballots, duplicate for Harris Waltz? My gosh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, I tell you. These duplicates were not and will not be counted. We are on it and protecting the vote, she says. Kind of, I guess. The RNC just stopped Michigan Democrats from counting 168,000 duplicate ballots. This report was posted 4 hours ago, and the RNC acted quickly to find it. This is so much better than 2020 under Rona McRomney. Is that actually her name? That's hilarious. I think that is her name too. The Persistence is reporting this. Urgent victory. The RNC won the lawsuit. Bucks County will have 3 additional days of in-person, on-demand mail-in voting. Wednesday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can come and vote right now. So yesterday I showed you Pennsylvania police officers cutting off the voting lines, the early voting lines at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, and people got on it and they've won. So they've opened up 3 extra days of in-person voting because of all of that. And don't worry though. 5 days out, they're setting up the Harris Waltz 1, and they've already played it on TV as well. And Wokeness says ABC accidentally aired election results of Harris winning Pennsylvania with 5% by 5% with 100% in. So there you go. She won 52 to 47 to Donald Trump's 47. Oh man, he almost got it. It's not even close. Come on. Ha. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? No way. 2020 was stolen, says Gunther, and he's responding to Brennan. Brennan says, the FBI is aware that voting machines are hackable. I spoke to one former agent who told me that the agency sent him to a hackers convention in Las Vegas known as DEF CON. He told me that there was a room where hackers hacked into voting machines to show the companies their vulnerabilities. He also showed me photos. When tips about election fraud were sent to the FBI back in 2020, the agency refused to investigate them. The FBI even fired one supervisor for asking about the tips they were receiving. Hey, I got this tip here, and it seems like it's election integrity involved. You're fired. Oh, there you go, right? The researcher is responding to Kyle. Kyle says, breaking massive election scandal in Wisconsin. A federal lawsuit has been filed against the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for allegedly turning over confidential DMV data containing the personal info of millions of Americans and non-citizens for targeted voter registration and outreach efforts. Citizen AG filed the federal lawsuit after discovering Wisconsin's DOT gave the 2 nonprofits the confidential DMV data. This is a major breach of voters' trust. And so it's a little bit long there, so I'll leave it there. But there's all sorts of voter shenanigans going on. And if you don't think that maps into Canada, if you don't understand that we have at least that much, if not a lot more, and I think a lot more. I think to the point where they can place it. I think they can decide, like that 57 or 52, 47. I think they can decide what the percentages are for every candidate. I think they have that fine-grained control. I think it doesn't even matter if you vote or not. Like, they don't care. They've got it all wired up anyway. That's my opinion. So you can come up with your own opinion based on the things that you know. But everything I've seen tells me our elections are pooched, like absolutely screwed for legitimacy. And if you want accountability, good luck. It'll happen right after we get accountability for all that COVID stuff they did. And that'll happen right after we get accountability for the economy they tanked. Sure. It's going to happen any day, right? Any day now. Roz Alerts again says, breaking, we're now officially 5 days away from the November 5th presidential election. This is a little earlier than the show than I usually do the American news, but man, we're 5 days out. And so like, I'm happy that we haven't had a war, World War III breakout anywhere, Israel, Ukraine, or anything like that. I'm happy that President Trump has not been killed. Like we're almost at the finish line, right? Like, so great. And it's impactful. It's going to impact the world no matter what happens, which way it happens, if Trump wins or if Kamala wins. And I don't think that the US is going to accept Kamala the way they accepted Biden, but I could be wrong. I didn't think they were going to accept Biden. I thought, man, like once people realize what's happened, they're going to be pissed. And then like 4 years later, people are like, we're going to vote our way out of this. And I think, oh man, we've learned nothing. We've learned nothing at all. Roz Alert says, we're now officially 5 days away from the November 5th presidential election. So what will we talk about after that? The Super Bowl. Yeah, that's it. We won't have anything to talk about. Still Roaming says, U.S. intelligence officials believe that North Korea will launch an ICBM or a nuclear test before the U.S. presidential election. Still time for an October surprise. Still time. Nope. That's the saber rattling. We're going to scare you to death. Vote Harris Waltz. I don't know. Donald Trump got a mega garbage truck to ride in where did he go yesterday? I can't remember where he was. I don't think he was in Pennsylvania, but Trump, New York maybe. Trump rides in a big, beautiful mega garbage truck after Biden attacks on his supporters. Biden called Trump supporters garbage. And so Trump goes and finds a garbage truck, right? So President Trump in a garbage truck on his way to the rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so there you go. And he's talking here. It's a little hard to hear. He's saying he thinks he has 250 million people support him. I hope that's true. I hope so. Libs of TikTok posts this. The people's president. It's Donald Trump in the cab of his garbage truck, his supporter, right? And the supporter's like, let's go. So that's all right, eh? Not too bad. Was it Rick the Plumber? Remember Rick the Plumber? That was the litmus test for the GOP, and the GOP... Maybe it wasn't Rick the Plumber, but the plumber guy. And he's dead now. He died. But regardless of all of that, it's funny how at one point in time, it was important for the president to connect with your everyman, right? Hence Rick the Plumber. And now it's so not important. Like if you're not elite, if you're not at a dance party with Beyonce, then it's not happening. Like it's not on, right? And so weird how that switch has happened. Democrats are all about Eminem and Beyonce, which Eminem doesn't even look like Eminem anymore. Regardless. And Donald Trump is all about your everyman, right? Your proverbial Rick. I don't think it was Rick. Doesn't matter. So here's Vivek coming in with in his own garbage truck, and he shows up to the Trump rally in that.
Let's make some noise when Vivek comes in here. Thank y'all for being here, ladies and gentlemen.
Is he? I think he's riding on the back of the garbage truck. There you go. There you go. Back of the garbage truck for Vivek Ramaswamy. Trump's in the cab, of course. And here is Elon Musk. This rhetoric around, this is the last election ever. If somebody asked me to stop scratching my nose, I'm desperately trying to not scratch my nose. I'm sorry. Anyway, the rhetoric that Elon Musk is using around like, this is the last election ever if we don't elect Trump, really sounds like sinister. If they were saying this about Harris, it would seem like you could see through it. But because they're saying it about Trump, and I mean like, I'm glad that Trump didn't get killed by those 2 assassination attempts. I'm glad we're 5 days out, and again, like the world still has chocolate cereal, so like things are okay-ish, right? I mean, sure, taxes are too high, and like all the rest of it, and our government are completely infiltrated by Chinese spies and more and worse. But you know, there's chocolate cereal, so things are like okay. But the rhetoric just seems odd to me. It strikes me as strange. If people were saying this about Justin Trudeau, this is the last election, and if we don't elect Justin Trudeau, the world's going to collapse. I would not at all agree. And because that gives it raises a red flag for me. It makes me think like I don't necessarily agree. I think the world is going to continue turning. I'm sorry, I think the world's going to continue turning, and we've got challenges. We've got things we have to fix. Holy smoke, do we have things we have to fix? I'm not saying that. It's just weird. Rhetoric like this puts up red flags for me sometimes, because I think to myself, what are they getting us to lean into and become like tunnel vision about, and what are we missing on the outskirts? Because a lot of times it's the details that matter, right? Like, and we're getting sucked into this tunnel vision, and I don't like it. Here's Elon Musk.
My view is that if Trump doesn't win this election, it's the last election we're going to have. The Democrats, the Dem machine, has been importing so many people, bringing in so many illegals, flying in with this like CBP border app thing that nobody even knew about, like secret program. It's
been 20 years. Like, and I'm not saying that they should continue to be allowed to do it, but it's been 20 years. Like, people didn't even believe the scale of the invasion going on in the 2000s. I had conversations with people, and my position on the whole thing was that they need to get control of their southern border before they can implement any social programs like universal healthcare. Because if you have a country with universal healthcare and open borders, what do you get? Well, you get Canada 2024. You get a situation where people come to the country with the freebie handouts. they don't have to pay into it, and they just get it anyway, and that incentivizes them to come. So you can't do that, right? Even without any kind of freebies like that, people are incentivized to come to the United States. But it's been 20 years. And so he's saying, like, listen, if we don't elect Trump, we won't have another election. But the parameters around we won't have another election are already in play. Like, we're already there. We're well past it. Like, George H.W. Bush was the same as Obama. They both started wars. They both stole tax money. They're both doing exactly the same thing as what everybody's doing now. Same thing. Biden, same thing. Trump, to a degree, he didn't start wars, right? But like, and he was fixing things, but is another 4 years of Trump going to fix it? Because after that, if there's not a plan, and if people don't stop this, like, another election, like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Because like, the control mechanism is that system. And like, we're already in a different paradigm than where we were in the 90s. That democracy was very different than the democracy we're in now. They wouldn't have tolerated what we know about people coming over the border. And yet here we are tolerating it and saying, oh, well, if we don't vote for Donald Trump, nothing's ever going to get fixed. Like, we're in a different paradigm. Getting fixed is, you almost have to go to war for it, because there are people who have built their lives here for 20 years, here, there, America, Canada too, for 20 years. And you want to change the paradigm by which they're existing, right? And so like, there are ways to do it. You can do it, right? But the people in power, the people who are incentivized to keep it, that marks a loss of power for them, and they're not just going to hand it over. So it's conflict, right? And like, the promise of the United States is a peaceful transition of power. And if we don't get a peaceful transition of power now from the Democrats, communists, to Trump, then it's a war, right? And I don't think that they're going to hand it over without conflict. I don't think they are. I really don't. They're not going to do it in Canada, and they're not going to do it in the United States. And so if Trump isn't selected by the people who are in charge, then it's going to be a war, right? And if it goes to a war, well, that's a pretty good indicator that Trump is not on their side. But he might be on his own side. He might not be on the citizen side, although he says he's on the citizen side. But take it with a grain of salt, as always. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful